We're back in the Dick Hanna Dealership Postgame Scoreboard show, and we got Dusty Harrah, Sideline Reporter, fan brand manager here at the Fan Sports Network on the line. And Dusty, you're there close to the team, obviously, interviewing guys before, after the games. You're on the sideline during the game. Just tell me, what was the vibes like? Because I feel like you have a good sense of that being right next to the team. I mean, just leading up to the game, seeing all the Indiana fans, and then, I mean, after that first play, I mean, like, what was the mood and what was the vibes like with the players, coaches, everything during that time?
Yeah, I mean, leading up, but the players are so insulated. Like, you look out and you see all the Indiana fans walking around like Centennial Park or whatever, and you was like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of red around here, not really knowing just how lopsided that crowd was. I mean, those Indiana fans, they showed up in droves. I mean, there were 75,600 and some odd people in the building, and I would venture to guess that 60,000 of them were Indiana fans. I mean, and they were loud the entire time. And that pick six, it definitely sparked them, got them going when it's on the very first play. But after that play, there wasn't like a hang your head. It was, okay, offense has got to get the ball back and they got to go do something with it. And really, I thought that, you know, those were the scripted plays because that was essentially their opening drive after you spot them 7 points. And I thought that the script went as well as it could. They marched down the field. Jamari Johnson scores that touchdown, and there was renewed hope. It was back to 0-0, right? And the defense just got to get a stop, and you got to do something with it, and you're back to even Stevens there. But when Indiana got the ball and they marched their way down the field, I mean, those catches were contested, and those receivers were just making incredible plays. And when that happened, you know, it was just kind of like, all right, when's the stop going to happen? When's the stop going to happen? And Indiana's a damn good football team. I mean, we've talked a lot about how Oregon has improved and Oregon has adapted and molded. So has Indiana. And, you know, they had 2 massive injuries on the defensive line. You couldn't really tell based on the way that they played. They were lights out, man. There's such a connection between the linebackers and the defensive line, and the way they just flow, replace each other, and the linebackers are just hair on fire, man. It was an impressive performance to see from Indiana.
Dusty, I want to ask about the coaches from last year to this year. Obviously, semifinals, really disappointing performance both ways. What differences, though? I saw a more prepared coaching staff last week against Texas Tech. Coming in, at least in the first quarter, I thought that Oregon's coaching staff looked more prepared. So from last year's Rose Bowl loss to Ohio State to now, these coaches to me seemed much more sure of themselves, at least until the second half of today in the Peach Bowl. What differences have you seen being so close on the sidelines?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many things that there's only so much coaches can do, right? The pick six, the fumble where, I mean, that's a mesh point fumble where, you know, it's an RPO and Dante had the throw read and De'Aaron Hill's elbow just kind of gets in the way. And that's the most unfortunate of plays that can happen. And then you have another fumble over the course of the game, and you're just going, all right, that's not necessarily coaching. You know, the ball was moving in Oregon. They racked up a bunch of yards. It was just those critical turnovers. And when that happens, I think it's, you know, that's just the luck falling their way and not yours. That's not a preparation thing, right? That's not a coaching thing. D'Angelo Pons on that pick six, I mean, he just read Dante Moore's eyes and jumped it.
Yeah.
And that was an incredible play and a ball that was, you know, maybe a little bit worse, and obviously Dante would want to have that one back. But, you know, I don't think I thought that the game plan was sound on both sides. It was just, you know, it comes down to one side's execution, and then you got to tip your hat to Indiana and the way that they executed. It was flawless, man. They were incredible tonight, and they've got really good coaches. That team, those receivers, Cooper and Surratt and the tight end, they were making contested catches that it's like teach tape, you know, on the tight end's touchdown. Finney's hand gets on the ball, and the receiver, as it's getting pushed over his head, pins it to his face mask and hauls it in, right? What are you going to do, you know? So they made the plays. And then the Fernando Mendoza fumble where, a great punch out by Jaden Kennedy, and Pat Coogan, the center, is trailing the play 15 yards downfield and just falls right on it, bounces right to him. The sack earlier in the game where, Mendoza the ball ends up popping right back up to Mendoza and everything's fine, right? Like the ball was just bouncing their way all night and they executed at a way higher level.
And just to kind of wrap things up, I mean, I'm hearing you saying that the game plan is sound, but it just seemed like when Sadiq is not getting involved until late in the game and we're running it on 4th and 1 with a pitch to the outside, which Indiana's been able to shut down for the last 2 games, you lose by 40 or 34 points. I mean, looks a little bit more respectable. I mean, like, I just can't sit here and be like, oh, well, they drew it up how it was supposed to be. Like, everything's all good. I mean, I just have a hard time sitting here and being like, well, the execution wasn't there. And I mean, it looks like the execution wasn't there all game long.
Yeah, they had drives of like 3 yards, 7 yards, 21 yards on fumbles, and then the pick six, like that sucks. And they made plays. I mean, the 4th down and 1, like I get that. That's a call where, the attrition in that running back room, that obviously affected.
Game's a little out of hand at that point too. I will say that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you had a situation where, who's the power back, right? Who's the guy that's going to go downhill and get that 1 yard? Because Jay Harris was working his butt off, but when that box is loaded the way that it was, I don't know, man. I don't know what you call right there. And in that one, sure, I bet Stein's like, we just should have handed the ball to Jay, let him go, and see if we can get that 1 yard. But how many times did we see that defensive line just kind of slant and just beat guys man to a man? And I think that is notable in this too, is that Indiana defensive line, man, they were physical, and they were the more physical team. And that's where I say like that's not scheme. That's just your dudes against their dudes, and there's one. And I don't know if Isaiah World and Dave Iuli came into the game dinged up, but didn't see them in the second half too. And I bet that played a factor in it, where you're down 2 starting offensive linemen, and you're trying to get that 4th down and 1, and maybe you just say, hopefully we can beat them with speed on the edge, right? So I think there's a lot of kind of factors that went into that where, look, it's an injury sport, and the injuries came to Oregon at the wrong time, and Indiana, they withheld their injuries, like they had 2 big injuries with Stephen Daly and Kellen Wyatt, and they just keep throwing guys that look exactly the same out there. It's freakish how well they were able to play.
Well, I know you got to get to it, man. You are on a logistical timeline there where you got to get on a bus, get on a flight, and get back home. But as we did for Anthony, want to thank you for jumping on here after every single game and talking with us, sharing your thoughts and insights from being on the sideline every single game with the Oregon Ducks. I know the travel. It's a long season for you. So I appreciate everything you do for, obviously, the station, the program, and for the listeners out there, man. Really do.
Well, no, thank you guys. You guys do an awesome job with this show, and, it's unfortunate that it kind of had to end in an embarrassing fashion, but it was a fun ride this year. It was a good season, and, building towards 26 now and seeing how the Ducks can reload, and a lot of big questions got to be answered with, Dante Moore, Kenyon Sadiq, Dylan Zieneman, those types of guys and what they do moving forward, because there's a lot of NFL aspirations for those guys, and they could all be high picks. So it'll be an interesting offseason, that's for sure. But thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, Dusty.
Thank you, Dusty. That is our sideline reporter for the Oregon Ducks, brand fan manager. You know him well, Dusty Harrah, giving his thoughts on the game. And, yeah, I mean, I just had to push back a little bit there because when I see a game like that and he's like, oh, yeah, schematically, and I hear what he's saying, it's just like not executing the schemes as you draw them up, and he is right on that aspect. But I just think from an offensive standpoint, one, you did not take shots until it seemed necessary.
Yeah.
I feel like this offense with Will Stein sometimes can just be so conservative and so just like I guess just the word is that I'm trying to come up with is like where you're so just set in your ways. Like, no, we need to keep doing this. It'll break. It'll break eventually. And it's just like, dude, we're down 28-7.
You're unwilling to adjust.
A sense of stubbornness.
Thank you. Stubbornness. That's what I was looking for there. And then on the defensive side, it's like, I don't know how many out routes you're going to let them hit before you start adjusting towards that, because any third and short seemed like we'll just throw to the sticks beyond 2 yards and we'll have Surratt out there, Cooper, or whoever. They'll be there because you guys are not guarding the sidelines. You are not. We'll run outs on you all day long because we know we have a quarterback that can hit that, and he was just putting it perfectly every single time. So,
and whenever his first read was not there, he went to his second read, or he would take off and run. And I think that just showed a lot of poise for Mendoza, because he really controlled the entire game with his feet and the clock.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break. This time, I'm sure we will have no commercials. And then we're going to come right back to it here on the Dick Hannon Dealership Postgame Scoreboard show. But first, let's get another weather update here on the Mods PDX Weather Update by Casey.
40 degrees in Portland, same as it will be tomorrow, between about 40 and 50 tomorrow, with a lot of cloud coverage. Ducks Game Day traffic and weather brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
1 year there, so Signetti brought him to James Madison in the portal where he excelled. Now he's a Hoosier. Deep throw, Charlie Becker! Touchdown, Indiana!
We're back here on the Dick Hannon Dealership Postgame Scoreboard show. Joe Fisher, Jordan Schultz.
Hey there.
Casey Smith.
Yes, sir.
Recapping this Oregon loss to Indiana 56-22 at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Shades of Alabama last week in the Rose Bowl. At least there were touchdowns scored by Oregon.
Yeah, Alabama got their ass kicked, and then Oregon got their ass kicked.
Yeah.
Can I respond a little bit to the point you were talking about just in the last segment with our own Dusty Harrah about schematics and Oregon's game plan? Because I do agree with you that it seemed that Oregon was very set in its ways, and I think a lot of people are wondering the reasoning for that, if that's because Will Stein was just exhausted, if he really did see something that he thought he could take advantage of, that just, the dam really never broke in that way. I was frustrated. Once again, we knew that they're short on running backs, right, Joe? I want to know why, A, Dante Moore did not run the ball more, and B, Kenyon Sadiq did not run the ball more. I know that they threw the ball to him, and I think targeted him. Like, he had 5 catches and 7 or 8 targets total, but why are we not handing the ball off to the guy that just a year ago was considered this next up-and-coming Swiss Army knife? He can block. He can run. They've done this, like, kind of, where he'll go in motion and they'll just quickly hand the ball off to him. I don't understand why Oregon wasn't doing those types of things today, Joe. It would have been the perfect opportunity for them to pull some things out of the bag that maybe Indiana didn't see last time against them, and they just didn't do it.
I think that they were literally exhausting all options at running back, and so, like, giving Sadiq, I don't know, even some pop passes to where he runs a little jet sweep motion and gets that, and when the quarterback just kind of tosses it in front of him, 1 yard, and the receiver takes it. I just thought that, you saw late in the game too with throwing the ball up to Jeremiah McClellan and him making another contested catch. It's like, why don't you believe? Like, I feel like there isn't this sense of belief in your guys that you have these amazing recruits, athletes on the outside. You have all these skill position players, and what you want to do is just seemingly throw screen passes and throw short passes and do inside zone run, and that because the outside it wasn't working against Indiana in this game and the last game, whatever. And it just seems like to me, it's like, if you really feel like you are the better team and you have the better talent, then why not take those chances a little bit more earlier in the game? Because it seems like Indiana's not scared to do it.
No, well, I think Dante Moore just either didn't see open receivers because of him getting bamboozled once again by the Hoosiers, or Oregon just wasn't willing to call the plays to make that happen, Joe. At least from my perspective, I hear what you're asking for. I just don't think Will Stein specifically answered the bill with any of his play calling.
Yeah. Read some thoughts here on the text line on the YouTube chat. Something definitely changed once they were named coaches. I mean, I think there is something to that, having your OC and DC just not being available 100%, not being here at the beginning part of the week.
And can we say not just the offensive and defensive coordinator, Joe? How many of the staff on offensive, defensive as well are going with these guys? There's, assistant strength and conditioning coach, assistant running backs coach that are headed to Kentucky with Will Stein, and same story on the defensive side of the ball. So it's just more than the leaders. It's position coaches, it's assistant coaches as well that I don't know where their head exactly is at.
Someone also think Stein and Tosh definitely had one foot out the door. I mean, again, it's just from you see this around college football, but granted, you saw it also with Dan Lanning himself.
Yep.
He accepted this Oregon job with Georgia as a national championship game looming. Now, a little bit different beast, being Georgia as good as they were that year.
Co-defensive coordinator as well. He wasn't the only one.
When they won the national championship, but he was there, and he was doing the same thing that Tosh and Will Stein were doing, and recruiting and getting ready for his next job, and they were able to win a national championship that year. So it's kind of, I think that when these moments happen, you're definitely like, in a moment like this, when you lose by 34 points, you definitely want to try and find someone to blame.
Yeah.
You want to point the finger at someone. Is it the coaching? Is it the players? Is it, the travel, whatever? And I think there's a lot of factors that played into why this game happened the way it did. But I think that the biggest thing it comes down to, just me personally, I think, is that you committed mistakes that you cannot do against a team like Indiana that is going to take advantage of it and doesn't commit mistakes themselves. There was a stat that popped up in the game at one point that they hadn't lost a fumble since the 18th play of the season.
And they fumbled twice today.
And they got on both of them.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just examples like that you see where they're fortunate. I'm not even going to say lucky. It's just they take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to them. Plain and simple.
Yeah, they controlled the ball well. Their head was in it, and they didn't really get off their skis. Oregon was obviously on their heels from the start of the game, and Dante Moore did not look comfortable. I mean, what a tale of 8 days in the tape makes, because he looked so confident against Texas Tech. Now he looked not scared, just confused at times, and it was really frustrating. It was literally like the same performance just out of the backfield from him against the first time that we saw them play Indiana.
This also on the text line, Mike McDaniel for the Dolphins for OC, please, from the Dolphins for OC, please. Don't think he's going to go to the college ranks, but I would sign up for that 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, let's go.
Angel?
What was that?
The biracial angel?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Some people, they don't realize that. He's definitely goes both ways there.
Sucks that Chip Kelly took the gig at Northwestern. I would have loved to bring him back as the OC.
I think that, and I think that Oregon fans, it's kind of
joking, by the way. Kind of joking.
Well, I think that Oregon fans also are a little bit like, dude, can we have kind of that again a little bit? Putting up 60 points and just routing teams and having 50-yard play after 50-yard play. That was kind of fun. Can we go back to that maybe a little bit, please?
I think that might
just a little bit of that element.
That might be where my skepticism for this team has come in a little bit throughout this season. It's just from growing up with the, Mike Bellotti handing it off to Chip Kelly era, where it was the start of the spread offense and Oregon just dropping NCAA 14 worthy play after play after play and putting up video game stats week to week. I want Oregon to dominate their teams, that they're the teams that they're playing. And yeah, that happened a couple of times this season. Maybe that got us a little bit higher than we should have been on Oregon, but I don't know, man. If you take away all the turnovers today and the scores off of the turnovers, including the blocked punt, 28 points the Hoosiers got, right? I mean, you just take that away. What's 56 minus 28? 28 would have been a 28-22 game. I doubt the game would have gone the same way if Oregon hadn't turned the ball over at all, or even just one time. Momentum could have swung the other way. They had a couple of decent drives. So, man, you want this game to go a different way, and you wish Oregon would have shown up. And you wish Chip Kelly would have been here trying to throw over the top of them. But I don't think that would have worked today. I think that their defense was just too good, and Dante Moore was just too confused once again, man.